Episode 7 of the 941 Sports Zone is on the air everywhere. I'm Spitz. He's John Massoni. Love the new camera, by the way. You definitely much more
upgraded.
vivacious, if you will.
Yeah, upgraded. Pretty soon to be backdrops. I'll have all kinds of stuff. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Keep on
Listen, we talked about last week schedule, but as usual, college and the NFL especially really delivered yet again.
Absolutely. It's just, when you think there's a lull, that's when you get caught, blindsided by stuff, because it's the games you don't expect. Even some of the blowouts, because they were blowouts, some of the teams, they were interesting to see. I mean, to watch the Ravens crumble at home.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Texans was like something like out of a weird movie. That in particular, and then of course the Colts. They looked dominant again.
They're rolling.
Yeah,
I know they haven't played very many people, but they're rolling, and so we'll get into all that.
Yeah, no doubt.
The 941 Sports Zone brought to you as always by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida, locally owned and nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses throughout the Gulf Coast. You need to give them a call, 941-251-4257. Again, that number, 941-251-4257. We appreciate everything they do for us here at the 941 Sports Zone. The wrap from the high school weekend. Listen, you and I talked before the show last week about the IMG National Venice game. And let me tell you something. I watched that whole game. Venice really probably played their best game of the year, in my opinion. They played very well. They did make some mistakes. They had a chance to score first in that game. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Then the field goal got blocked. 27-14 was the final. I know you were on the call of the game along with Ryan Sudol, and he was an IMG guy, and he was even impressed with Venice. A very good performance. I know John Peacock is not about moral victories, but he certainly has to be heartened by their performance.
Yes, and I will tell you that like with Ryan being there, sort of giving me he's seen a lot of good football. And talented players. He was saying before, pregame and whatnot, that this team, the way it's being constructed now at IMG, could be one of their better teams that he's ever seen. Mix of seniors, juniors, and sophomores. And let's just say the sophomores on the IMG Academy team were the stars of that game. But come out of the gate, and Venice's defense, which has been the most consistent part of their team all year, really showed the ability not to get pushed around. They had to earn them. They made plays. 13-0 at halftime, and you felt like it was even closer than that. And then offense sort of caught onto some things, but it was a good game for progress of some of the players, progress of where they're headed with their game planning in regards to certain things. So we'll see how that all plays out moving forward, because I can tell you that I'm not a big moral victory guy. When you see the result, you see how well they played, you can't help but think that there's better things ahead.
No question. Riverview played the IMG Junior National team. That's Venice's next opponent. We'll get into that in a little bit. 54-14, another 50-burger put on the board by Riverview. They just continue to score points, John.
Yep, when you start getting into that flow, your play calling is in rhythm. You've got athletes that can spread you out and can put you in space and make plays. I've seen glimpses of Riverview all year here and there. They look very athletic. They look like they belong in the discussion for whatever championship or whatever level they're headed towards. That they look like they're playing the part. And any team with an IMG, and this is the JV, if you want to call it, to the national team. You put 54 on any of those teams. These are all kids that just haven't matured enough, or they're very young. That they had a freshman quarterback in there, but they look good. Riverview looks really good, and they're taking care of business like they should.
Some other scores: Booker, kind of a little bit of a struggle with Sebring. Sebring was only a 2-3 football team. I think Booker threw the uniforms on the field and thought they were going to work out. They did win by 7, 27-20, but that kind of caught my eye a little bit. I
Well,
would have thought Booker would have done a lot better.
Not if I'm not mistaken, Sebring played a couple of teams tough this year. They're not a bad football team, but you're right. Sometimes you get that we call them trap games or whatever it may be, and that you're looking down the schedule and you see, oh, it's Sebring, and they're not a name that pops off the page because you don't see them too often here and there. But yeah, you got to be careful with those kind of games. We've seen it happen over the years to any team, and every team will find themselves in a trap game, and one mistake and a couple of fumbles and get sloppy out there, and then you're off to the races and with a big upset.
Cardinal Mooney, no problems with Clearwater Central Catholic. That's actually a pretty big rivalry. They usually play a lot of close games, but Cardinal Mooney 49-28, the final there.
Seems like Mooney is like I said, I say it every week, but they're posting 49 on offense and they're kind of running away with it. But you're right, Clearwater Central Catholic is a rival and a very highly rated team in the state of Florida. They'll be on Venice's schedule after Riverview, so look forward to seeing how that one's going to turn out. As far as it was a great game last year, came right down to the wire. It was kind of a goal line stand for Venice to pull out the victory.
Sarasota was down double digits to Lakewood Ranch, came roaring back, shootout 41-37. The Sailors, after the disappointment of the Riverview game a couple of weeks ago, nice bounce back win.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'll tell you this, I know Lakewood Ranch is again not a moral victory, but the offense came alive for a little bit because I know they were putting zeros up there, and that's a tough thing to overcome. So to get 37 on a pretty good Sarasota team is good. But yeah, Sarasota came roaring back at the end and went ahead and got that victory over Lakewood Ranch.
Hawthorne, no problems with Bayshore, 41-0. What is Bayshore doing playing Hawthorne? Hawthorne is like a single A team, but aren't they always in the state finals or semifinal? They're tough.
I know a guy up there. He's very much a part of that rural community as far as the teams are concerned. And Hawthorne is one of them. Their coach was a Florida Gator alumni, a guy named Cornelius Ingram. He's got things rolling up there, not only football but basketball as well. So that's one of those things where you start to maybe somebody because you played with them or you know who he is or whatever it may be, and you say, hey, you know what, let's put a game together, and next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, we didn't realize that little rural school is as good as they were, but they are good. They're a good program for sure.
The small schools of Sarasota did very well. St. Stephen's, another W. They're just stacking wins. 28-26 over West Oaks. Sarasota Christian, after some tough games playing up. This time they played Gateway Charter. No problems there, 48-14. And out of door, 50 to just watching against Faith Christian. The small school's doing extremely well.
No doubt about it. And I get my update from Coach Span about Sarasota Christian, and a couple of the losses, they were throwing some crazy stats up there, which tells you how much stats really matter in the grand scheme of things. But they didn't have a big stat line because they didn't need to in that game. They probably got a lead and then probably just put it on cruise control. But no, you're right. The local those schools, I always talk about it. I mean, it's going to come a time when I've got more time on a Friday night or whatever it may be. I want to start checking those games out because I think they are an exciting brand of football, and it's good to watch all levels of high school football when you get an opportunity.
Moving into Manatee County Southeast, no problems with DeSoto. Boy, DeSoto's program has just struggled the last several years. 42-0 Southeast. They only have one loss so far in the year, and that was to Manatee. Parish Community, we talked about this game last week. Couple of 4-1 teams. They went on the road to Winter Haven. That's a tough road trip, and come away with a 12-3 win. And
that defense got, again, we see when Parish Community wins games, it seems to be a defensive result, and 3 points in any high school game is pretty darn good. Manatee,
again, they're doing the play up thing, kind of like Venice does, except I think they've picked on teams that are just a little too much for them this year.
Well, they weren't too far from Hawthorne, so maybe Bayshore or Manatee should huddle up and say, like, maybe we don't want to go and mess with those Alachua County-ish kind of area schools, because boy, they Columbia has always been a perennial power as well. So yeah, not a fun night when you get a goose egg and a 35-0 running clock on you.
Yeah. Charlotte, no problems with Island Coast, 45-13. That was a running clock in that game. Island Coast doing a little cosmetic job late in that game. They have a pretty decent quarterback. I heard their game against Lemon Bay a couple of weeks ago. He just has nobody to throw to.
Right. That's when you see where'd the Island Coast quarterback go. He's in somewhere on the East Coast or something like that, because
Dunbar, somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere they'll end up. Yep, no doubt about it.
So the big games this week, a lot of district action taking place. Riverview at Venice. John Peacock talked about this way back when we first started doing a coach's show, almost a decade ago. County championship. That's the first step. Riverview comes in 6-0-1. Venice is 3-3. Don't be fooled by the records.
No, I think that's one of the things that I cannot imagine Coach Christiani is going to even that he won't even put the record up there. It's not even going to be close to that. But I'm sure however those three losses have come to Venice, he'll be studying what happened and how it happened, because there could be a formula in there that he can use to his advantage. But no, I mean, from a local perspective, all the games that have been played, you talk about, Venice playing IMG, Riverview playing IMG, whatever. This is where it gets down and dirty right now.
Rubber meets the road.
This is the biggest district, or the biggest schools, and the two quote unquote favorites perennially in the playoffs. So here we go, Venice Riverview, and who knows what to expect. Over the years, Riverview has changed their offense and done different things over the years to try to make things, get off their tendencies when they play Venice. It's worked on an occasion, but we'll see what happens. I think both teams are primed. I don't think there's any more they can do to get ready for this from a scheduling perspective. I think they're ready to go and face each other and see which one is going to be the one who takes the big leap advantage on the district championship.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Coach Christiani won't. Emotion will not be a part of this game for sure for him.
No, he's going to be real. He's going to be real tepid. He's not going to do anything. No. But again, it'll be, it's when you know each other as well as they do, personally and professionally. The tendencies, the personalities. It's almost like it's like a psychology game to see what you're going to do here. What is this? There's always a lot of tendencies from both teams that make them successful. You can't get away from everything. You know what I mean? You're still going to run and do your bread and butter. So like all these games, like when you have these rivalries, it comes down to execution. It comes down to penalties. It comes down to turnovers. Things that are in the intangibles have a lot to do with how the outcome of these games go. And I always said there's always a third team on the field, which is the referees. But you don't want to let them to be a part of anything.
No.
Because again, you never know, and I only bring it up because, there's always little things that can happen. But, they know it's a rivalry. There's going to be a lot of jaw jacking and people are going to be saying certain things or whatever it may be. So you never know if the referees are going to be like, hey, you know what? Well, we understand it's going to happen. Or the referee's going to be like, okay, every time somebody points a finger, they're going to start throwing penalty flags and it affects the game. So we'll see which way it turns out. I know that both coaches have already told their players play with enthusiasm, but don't play silly, don't play stupid, any of that kind of stuff. So we'll see how things roll out on Friday night at Powell Davis Stadium.
The other game I could find that's got a little bit of intrigue: Port Charlotte travels to Fort Myers Dunbar. Dunbar is always a really talented team with a lot of athletes. Port Charlotte escaped when they played a week ago Thursday. Escaped with a 28-27 or 29-28 win. It was 1 point at South Fort Myers. And, this is another team that's very similar to South Fort Myers.
Port Charlotte needs to get their mojo back, Rich. They after the Venice game, it seems as though that they've sort of underperformed a little bit. And I'm no detraction from their opponents, but Port Charlotte, I think, is the team that can control their own destiny, moving right to the state championship. I think that they're talented enough and they've challenged themselves enough that there's a pathway there. You've seen what a successful program looks like, and they look just like it with a quarterback who's dynamic.
Yeah,
And
Logan
that's a
Flaherty.
huge thing in in high school football. You got a guy who can run and throw. He's got skill position people. He's got running backs. So I just think that I think they just need to get themselves back on track and treat Dunbar like it's the biggest game of the year and get your mojo back, as I said earlier. I think they need to do that.
And I'm coming down to do Lemon Bay and Estero, and I've done a little homework on this game. This is if styles make a fight, this is going to be some fight. You got a team in Lemon Bay that runs the ball 85% of the time, and you got a team in Estero that looks like they throw it 85% of the time.
Yeah, and it's funny because you if you're the throwing team, and I'll use this how it is, and you go 3 and out and you hand the ball over Lemon Bay and 9 minutes go by, you don't see the ball again. Boy, does that put pressure on you. I think there's a lot of pressure. And then the flip side is Lemon Bay puts the ball on the ground or they have a 3 and out and then they score. Now they're chasing a team that's going to try to be a front runner. So it's the tortoise and the hare kind of scenario. You know what I mean? And so you think to yourself, which style works best? And I hate to say this, but it just depends. It depends on a lot of things. And that's a game that turnovers and penalties can really make a difference in a ball game.
All right, that's our high school football wrap for this week. Again, the 941 Sports Zone, episode number 7, brought to you by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. They have national backing, I should say, but they're locally owned, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses all over the Gulf Coast. 941-251-4257 is the number. 941-251-4257. College football, what was supposed to be the game of the weekend didn't turn out so much. First off, Florida State losing to Virginia, who, by the way,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, they're a pretty good team. They went to North Carolina State and won in overtime. Yeah, so they're pretty good. Right near the top of the ACC. But I watched most of that game, John, and I'm a Florida State fan. Don't be fooled by the final score. 28-22 was the final. And this is, and you and I could talk a little bit about coach of Miami, Mario Cristobal, and the coach of Florida, Billy Gillispie. Am I getting? No, that's
Napier.
Billy Napier. What am I thinking? Kentucky basketball here. Anyway, both coaches had their games in hand and seemed like they were letting their opponents back in. I mean,
they do that.
Miami beat the crap out of Florida State for 3 quarters.
Right.
And then in the 4th quarter, they're hanging on for dear life.
So Mario Cristobal has done that every game this year. Notre Dame, he's let everybody back in. He kept Florida in it at a 13-7. Florida had the ball driving to go take the lead in the game that they were totally outmanned in that game. That's barely do enough to win doesn't work in the long term.
No.
Okay. I for as much as Miami has had some very good wins, they're not as good as maybe people think they are as far as that's concerned. And they are. I would be if I could do a lock for like 6 weeks into the future. I think Miami's going to have 2 losses before the season's over.
Wow.
And I think it's going to be a game they shouldn't lose, and a game that they've said, well, that's a better team to that night. And I look at it from that perspective because what he does and how he remember like year 1 when he could have taken a knee.
Right. He ran the ball and they fumbled and they lost the game.
And he went into the whole thing that everybody's got to get a chance and this and that. That philosophy doesn't change. That's who that guy is. Okay.
Right.
And he's still doing it and still employed because he hasn't really hasn't caught up to him again like it did that time. He does certain things and plays a certain way that is going to be highly conservative when it comes to the end of the ball game. He's going to try to grind it out and show you what he can do. He's a line coach, okay? And I really believe that it's going to bite him on the you-know-what at some point in time. That game against Florida State, there was a moment when I'm watching it and I'm saying, they could win this. They could. No. Florida State could get. I'm just saying, just a bounce of a ball.
I know what you're saying. As a Florida State fan, I've seen this movie before, but yes, there's doubt. There's doubt when there should be no doubt whatsoever.
Finish the game, and I've talked about this over the years. I got a buddy of mine, Sean. He's a huge college football fan, and I used to tell him all the time. And I said, could go to a Steve Spurrier-led Florida football game, and the score would be a certain score by the third quarter, and I'd say, the game is over. I could light the victory cigar. I could sit back and relax. No angst, no throwing up feeling or whatever it may be, because he had enough points on the board that there wasn't enough possessions to come back and win. Okay. But when you go 3 and out trying to run the football and you're shorting your own, you're not getting first downs, you're getting people back into the flow of things. It's amazing to me that the game management of college football coaches in a lot of cases is absolutely atrocious. They're almost like they're players, not coaches. They're not looking at it from an analytical perspective. And the weird part about it is most of these guys have 900 coaches on the sidelines. Yeah. What are they doing? Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Yeah. Successful teams, they're not pushing every analytic about what to do on 3rd and 7 or whatever, but they are doing certain things in game management perspectives. They say, hey, coach, you know what, 1 first down or you know what, run wide. So it's not a 40-second play, it's a 55-second play. You can do these things. It's pretty simple. But I don't know if that's something that these coaches do, because what's not happening? In some cases, it's not getting translated back to the players. Right. Like, don't run out of bounds inside 4 minutes of the end of the game, because fall on the damn ground and get 1 less yard. It's better than going. And they don't. I don't know if this is being taught or if these guys just don't think it's worth their while to even acknowledge it. And I think it's inevitably a huge problem.
Yeah. By the way, it's really good when you can run the football and your quarterback is not pressured to make every play. I'm talking about the Florida Gators.
Absolutely.
I loved what I saw Saturday. I mean, they just took it to Texas. And I kind of texted you. I was like, $40 million doesn't buy what it used to. Nope, they got whooped on both sides of the line of scrimmage in that game. I know the final score was 29-21, but Florida kicked their ass.
So that Florida team on Saturday beats LSU, beats Miami, beats USF. That version of Florida. Now the thing is, only thing that changed dramatically in regards to personnel and whatever else was Dallas Wilson, a freshman wide receiver.
Yeah.
If it makes you mad, all right, I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to say. Chris Doring does the SEC wrap-up shows.
Yes, he does.
And I like the fact that all these guys are SEC guys. They wear their team on their sleeves. No problem. And Doring is no different. Doring said after the game was over, I don't know if I'm happy or I'm pissed. And that's exactly how he put it. Am I pissed? Because where was this? Why is this happening? Why did this all of a sudden we wake up and against Miami, we run the ball 7 times to our best running back. This week he runs it 27 times, and guess what?
Chunks.
You're slinging the ball all over the field and you're hitting tight ends and you're doing all dynamic, just a dynamic looking offense. The O-line looked way better than they had the last couple of weeks.
Well, hey, John, you're in football. They love run blocking more than pass blocking. They get to be very aggressive in it. It showed.
And you saw again, at the beginning of the year, we talked about this game, the Texas game. We thought, they'll be number 1 when they come in here. And I said, when I went to Austin last year and watched them play, and I've watched them play on TV, I think that they are undermanned at running back. They don't have a running back that's anybody that's going to, make you quiver in your boots. They have average wide receivers, and they were totally dependent on the idea that Arch Manning was going to be the second coming of Archie Manning, not Peyton and not Eli. He was going to run around and be the next generation of what Manning quarterbacks look like, and he's looked like crap. He looks like crap. He got beat up again in this game, so his O-line is not doing many favors. But we have no running game to speak of other than Arch Manning running around. They're gonna lose to Oklahoma. If they trot that out there, only thing they got going for them is that Oklahoma's quarterback is in the in the hospital or whatever he's at right now. So that could be an issue. Oklahoma's a better football team by far than Texas at this point. So yeah, you're right. It's frustrating. It's everything else, but that team, what a difference, in that with that game plan and with that how that goes. And by God, you played up to the level. My concern is we go to Texas A&M and you have another outstanding game, whatever that result may be, and then you get Mississippi State at home and you walk out there and you put 4 plays on the field and you keep them in the game the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the frustration with Florida fan is, and Florida player even in some cases. I got to think that if it goes down to how you approach the opponent and what you're doing. If you approach every game like you approach Texas, you might get back to 6-6 at the end of the year, or 7-5 if you continue to do that.
Yeah, it's a pretty big game, the A&M game coming up.
Yes, and week. I think they're ripe for the picking. A&M is. It's just that's at home, and that's a tough place to play.
It is. But Notre Dame went in there last year and won.
There's no doubt.
It's not impossible. I mean, the thing is, these places in the SEC are really hard to play at, but you do it every freaking week. So it's not like, your
90,000 and their 90,000 are the same amount of noise. Yes. So you're not walking into one and you're like, well, unless you're Vanderbilt, but they don't seem to mind. But when you don't walk into Auburn, everybody says like, oh, how come every SEC stadium that's with these big programs is 100 and something thousand to 85,000 seats. Yeah. Even Ole Miss and Mississippi State had smaller stadiums. They've built bigger stadiums as well. So and Missouri, that kind of thing. Like Missouri is hard to play because you're usually playing in some sort of slush at the end of the year, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and you're the 12 o'clock SEC game.
Yes.
So that kind of thing always hurts. But no, you're right. Go to Tennessee, 105. You've been there, done that. Your stadium is 92. South Carolina is 90 something. They're all big stadiums, so you should be used to it.
Other state games, UCF lost their starting quarterback yet again.
Yeah.
And then they also lost the second half lead, 27-20 home loss to Kansas. We talked about this last week, John. This was a game they had to have. Their season can unravel here. And
Kansas, used to be, but they were terrible for years. One win kind of team. They've gotten a lot better. They're definitely a much more dynamic football team, but UCF had to have that game, like you said, and UCF is too talented to not win that game, as far as I'm concerned. So that's a tough one, and to see how they come out of that loss and see where they head for the next couple of games.
And USF destroyed Charlotte on Friday night, 54-26. Alex Golesh made a lot of friends with the alumni who like to play the games, if you know what I mean.
Right.
He let the reserves score with 36 seconds left to cover the 27.5-point spread in that game.
I have a theory that college coaches know more about the spread than any other coaches than in any level, because boosters, hey coach, looking for a big win on Saturday and a cover. You know what I mean? I can't imagine that's not being said on multiple occasions.
Nationally, how the mighty have fallen. Penn State, the latest to go down after losing that heartbreaker to Oregon in double OT. They go to winless UCLA. They basically fired their entire staff. Rick Neuheisel's kid, who, by the way, there's no milkman involved there. He looks just like Neuheisel. They were carrying him off the field. I'm like,
he looked like Neuheisel in the 70s. He had his California 70s hairdo and his he looked just like his dad.
42-37 UCLA winless. They had only scored 57 points on the season against the likes of New Mexico. I mean, wow.
Well, Penn State, I think a little bit had to do with they were probably intimidated by the 9 people in the stands that went to that game, because that's about all there were there. But this is, I know I've talked about this before, but this is Penn State. This is what they do.
They are.
You watch them and you say to yourself, this is a one-trick pony, okay? And they find different ways to lose. Again, they look awkward. They look bumbly. And you know, James Franklin did the absolute wrong thing to go ahead and say, well, the travel was this and the hotel was this.
You know what?
Stupid. Don't even say that stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's that could be coming up later, John. That could be definitely coming up later. You know,
good. I'm good to hear that because that's, and I've been, you know, people have asked me, oh, James Franklin at Florida or James Franklin for this job. No, James Franklin has to do it at Penn State.
Right. Or he's not doing it anywhere. Yep.
He hasn't done anything. You know, they used to give Joe Paterno a hard time because he played the whole Northeast. He played Rutgers and Pitt and everything else. And never really, he'd have one big game. He'd venture out and play Alabama or somebody that was give him a boost, and he'd go undefeated and not get a national championship because they couldn't do anything. James Franklin must have been given the handbook from Joe Paterno, but he's in the wrong era to be doing that stuff.
Right.
So he's got to get it right. They have athletes. I mean, look at the NFL. You got offensive linemen. You have two of the best
edge rushers
in the NFL from there. Running backs. Look, Saquon Barkley. Come on, he's a Penn State guy. Yeah. And why they can't seem to do it has got to be heavily laid on the head of James Franklin.
No question about it. The game of the weekend, as it turned out, they moved game day to Alabama. And Alabama and Vanderbilt were in quite a tussle. And Alabama scored just before the half. And that seemed to turn the entire game around because Alabama came out in the second half and they basically blitzed Vanderbilt. 30-14 was the final. It wasn't that big of a margin. It was a pretty close game down the stretch.
Yeah, there was some
another cover at the end of the game.
Well, Alabama's famous for it.
Yes,
I know a guy who knows about it, who loves betting Alabama or loves picking Alabama, I should say, with some covers, and they are no doubt about it. They definitely do it. There's that one for sure. That Alabama alumni love those covers. Yeah.
Shut Diego Pavia up a little bit. You know, he was talking all week, and second half he didn't have much to talk about. He was not good at all. By the way, I got to make a correction. Virginia beat Louisville in overtime. It's a much more impressive win. Yeah. That's Miami's next opponent after their bye on a Friday night, and that takes a little luster off that game. But nonetheless, nice job by Virginia.
But Rich, that's the game they lose. I'm not saying they do, but that's the one that even after a bye.
It's at home.
Yeah. What's home?
Okay.
You know what I'm
saying?
We'll
talk about it next week for sure.
Yeah. What's home? I mean, Miami's home field advantage is 9 miles up the road. You know, they're not on campus. They may be one day.
They're not even in the same county. That's the part that kills me.
Right, and so the home field advantage is very odd to me. It doesn't have the same ring to it, and they're not going to show up on a Friday night. High school football in the state of Florida, playoff implications go all the time. I'm not going to go up to that game and watch Louisville. They're just not. They'll have more than 9 people at like UCLA. They might have 29 people. They're not going to be that interested in that game. I don't care what anybody says. They show up for the big ones. They don't show up for the other ones, which is unfortunate for Miami.
No, got to get that on-campus stadium like USF is doing.
Yeah, that's going to be a big difference maker for USF.
Speaking of USF, they're back in the top 25, as probably they should be, because the bottom of the top 25 is not that good. I mean, Florida State didn't even drop out in the AP. Okay, they're 25th. They're going to play a team with a chip on their shoulder. They're at unbeaten North Texas, big American matchup, and that's a Friday night, 7:30 on the Deuce. I believe South Florida is favored by 1.5 in that game. Everything in the world, the North Texas coach has got to be going, they're coming to our place. We're undefeated. They're ranked. They're favored. Yeah, that's going to be a test.
And North Texas, if you follow college football, they're in bowl games every year. Now it's not the ones that you watch on New Year's Day.
Right.
It's the ones that they're for the first week of the bowl, but they're in them, and there's something to that. And so they're used to success. They went on the road and beat Army, which is it's always a tough out to do that. But you're right. And North Texas is going to come in with a lot of a big ass chip on their shoulder, and USF better be ready for it. But I will tell you this: they're battle tested. USF is. that schedule they came through with, pretty well. They're not going to see anything for the rest of the year that's going to even to test them any more than Miami or Florida had done to them earlier. So we'll see how it turns out. Great game. Too bad it's on a Friday.
Yeah, again, yeah. College. I don't want to get into that. That could be another what's bugging me later on down the road. Anyway,
yeah, no doubt.
Florida, we mentioned it at now number 5, Texas A&M, top 5 for the Aggies. This is where it usually falls apart. Let's see what they do this Saturday night at 7 on ESPN.
Yeah, I said we talked a little earlier about it. Going to be an interesting game at night. Florida, I will say this. I felt like as moving again towards the Texas game, that the one that Florida could pull off was going to be the A&M game, because I think Lagway goes back to Texas, a little bit of motivation to go back home and put on a show in front of the home fans, if you want to call it that. But we'll see. I mean, again, if the Florida team that played Texas shows up on Saturday night, I think it's a victory for Florida. Yeah, I think it's a victory for Florida. Florida, one thing else I didn't mention earlier though, Rich, I knew it early in the year that they were going to be good in the secondary, because there always seems to be injuries, significant injuries in the secondary, but they go a couple deep at cornerback, and their lineup of safeties that got running out there right now are very, very talented.
Yes.
So I think that Florida's passing defense is going to be a challenge for Texas A&M. I think their quarterback Reed, if I'm not mistaken, that's who it is. He wins the game with his legs, because he can run, and I'm interested to see how Florida defends him as far as keeping him in the pocket, because Arch Manning's big plays against Florida were when he broke contain and got out of the pocket. He made some runs. He was a leading rusher for them, and he made some plays downfield when he got out of the pocket as well. So that's going to be a big part of that.
Pitt is at Florida State, again ranked 25th. That's noon on ESPN. UCF goes to Cincinnati, who picked off Iowa State last week. A very nice win.
Yep, big win. I liked Iowa State, dark horse getting in the playoffs. Rocco Beck looked great. So that's going to be an interesting game for Cincinnati to come in there, and we'll see what happens with that one with UCF.
Yeah. The national games, Red River Rivalry, we talked about it. Texas, Oklahoma, 3:30 on ABC. It's only going to be about 560 degrees there at the State Fair. It's an interesting game. You got a backup quarterback who might be more highly regarded than the current Texas quarterback. You brought that up earlier. Texas has got to find a way to run the ball and shorten the game, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Watching Auburn, Oklahoma a couple weeks ago, the poor quarterback from Auburn, he's probably still seeing crimson jerseys in his face.
Yeah.
And the way Texas did not protect, I think Arch might get sacked 25 times. It's possible. But who am I to say? It's a rivalry, so you never know what's going to happen in that situation. But I think Oklahoma could really, really put a big damper on the rest of Texas this season if they throw another loss on them. Again, put them with 3 losses, a team that started out number 1 in the country. Unbelievable.
Now, conversely, if Texas somehow finds a way to beat Oklahoma as they have in recent years, that could be a pretty big blow to the Sooners, because Texas has kind of owned this recently. So, and this rivalry, all rivalries are emotion, but this one, I love sitting down and watching this game, getting my popcorn, and just watching these two teams beat the crap out of each other for 3.5 hours.
And it's just like Florida, Georgia. You're a Florida State fan, and I got a lot of my buddies are Florida State fans. And over the years, they'd say, "We got to be your biggest rival." I'm like, no, it's Georgia. Yeah. We don't. I mean, you that neutral site setting. You're it's a conference game. It means a lot toward going forward, and so there's so many more implications to it. Yeah, bragging rights in the state of Florida or in whatever, that's great. But when you say about your rival, that's your rival right there. There's no doubt about it. So I know about those rivals and those neutral site games. They are fun. Trust me, I've had a lot of fun in Jacksonville, but it does mean a lot.
Interesting. We'll talk about that as it comes up. I believe it's the day after Halloween this year.
Mm-hmm.
Last time in Jacksonville for a couple of years because the stadium's going under renovation.
It's depressing, and I can tell you that neither site, Tampa and Atlanta, really sends a chill up and down my spine because I've been to many Buccaneer games, and how the stadium is situated around the city or the traffic patterns is not really like hey, let's wander around and have a little party. In Jacksonville and like the State Fair at Texas, you park and you can walk anywhere. There's not the fastest anybody's going is like 2 miles an hour. No cars are going by. There's no worries, none of that stuff. So I'm not a big fan of Tampa, and Atlanta there is no tailgating. There is no party.
It's not Atlanta, isn't it? Like 20 miles north of Atlanta. I mean, that's the other problem.
You're doing nothing. You're just and it's nowhere land. So it's going to be blah, for a couple of years as far as that's concerned. So we'll see. So that coming up will be an interesting one for sure.
And a very interesting game that I'll have my eye on. It kind of sucks that it's on at the same time as Texas and Oklahoma. 7th-ranked Indiana at number 3 Oregon. Now, from the ranking standpoint, you would think, this should be a pretty good game. Indiana, in my opinion, has something to prove. They've got to be in this game. They don't necessarily have to win it. But with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, they need to be within a touchdown because when they stepped up in class last year, they looked terrible. They got beat bad. Ohio State beat them bad. Notre Dame beat them bad in the playoff.
So I'm gonna put a bookmark on this conversation because at the end, this is one of my at the end situations. I'm gonna give you a little opinion on this one. So so yes, definitely a very interesting game that might be under the radar because of who's playing.
All right, and then the other game I wrote down was Georgia at Auburn.
And you should. It's always a good game.
It is, and Georgia just doesn't impress me. Even the Kentucky game last week. I know they pulled away in the second half, but I'm just underwhelmed.
Sitting there watching Kirby after the Tennessee game, and he looked like the guy who didn't quite know how he did it, how he won that game. For as much as they're gonna pump up Gunnar Stockton and everything else, they are not the same team that they've been the last few years. And I will say this about Georgia. I think Todd Monken is a great offensive coordinator. I think that again, what Kirby learned from Nick was that get the right guys. Maybe they don't fit everything, and maybe you don't go out for beers with them, but get that guy who is the next level guy. And Monken is. So that's his ace. And he's making things work around Gunnar Stockton at this point. Mm-hmm. But I don't think this version of Georgia is a juggernaut. No. Which is kind of why wasn't big about Alabama, which is kind of why I thought LSU had a chance to win this SEC this year because they had enough talent to be at the top, but Brian Kelly's being Brian Kelly at this point, so we don't know what's going to happen there in particular. But the Georgia Auburn game could be very good because I think Auburn on offense, if they can protect the quarterback, they're going to get some points. And I don't know if Georgia can go toe to toe. That's why I think Kirby was surprised in the Tennessee victory because they had to go toe to toe offensively, and I don't think that's where he's comfortable at this point.
All right, time to finish the college deal and move over to the NFL. Before we do, we remind you that Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida is the sponsor of the 941 Sports Zone. Give them a call, 941-251-4257. Again, 941-251-4257. John, I'm trying not to be excited, okay, with the Tampa Bay Bucks. But first off, they play an exciting brand of football.
They sure do.
It drives you nuts that they went like 5 possessions without being able to stop Seattle. Like they were Sam Darnold was like a knife in hot butter. But when they needed to make a play, they made a play. Baker Mayfield was unbelievable.
Cardiac kids. That's what they are. They're winning games late. I don't know. Sometimes that when you're doing what they're doing, you get this unbelievable belief that you're going to win every game. Which I mean, psychologically, that means a lot on a football field. That you believe it, then that's the only way it's going to happen if you believe it. So there's a lot to be said about that. They are going to lose a game. They're going to get bitten on a couple occasions. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. The one thing that worries me about the Buccaneers is their defense.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of what's going on defense. You know, again, I know a lot about Todd Bowles. I watched him as the head coach for the New York Jets, and Todd Bowles has always been a bend don't break guy. Mm-hmm. Okay, he'll throw some exotic blitzes at you. He'll do some things, but man, I watched a lot of games like this when he was the coach of the Jets, where all of a sudden you got the game, and next thing you know, you're struggling to maintain because he's playing some weird coverage inside the 20-yard line or whatever he does. So, I'm sure he's better, and I know he's better than he was as a coach than he was with the Jets. So that's one thing for sure. But it is a little scary, and they've got to stay healthy as much.
Well, they're going to get healthier.
Yes,
I mean, think about it. No Evans, Godwin's just coming back. No McMillan, who was a big part of their success second half of the year last year.
Yeah.
Second half of the year, they should get all these guys back, and the schedule gets a lot easier. They can navigate through this, and they've got a tough one coming up Sunday against San Francisco, and they moved it to 4:25, which actually, in my opinion, takes away one of the Bucs' advantages.
Yes.
Two advantages. One, it would be 10 o'clock San Francisco time, and two, it's going to be hotter than the bejeebers.
Right.
Yep,
you're right.
So that kind of neutralizes things a little bit for that game.
I think, and obviously the division that Bucs are in, we looked at the early part of the year, best division, worst division. You know what? The division, it's Carolina's playing some nice football right now. They're okay. You can't. Atlanta's schizophrenic. You don't know what they're going to do one or the other. And the Saints are just going to be a 4-win team. So
they're on the clock, in my opinion. Even though they won, they're on the clock. Yeah.
And there's no doubt about that. I totally believe that. So I think that could be it's a big boost because you're going to see now in the East, NFC East, you're going to have the three teams at the top. The Giants are not really competitive at this point. In the North, you got three teams at the top again up there. And Chicago's gone pretty much on the rise. And out West, you got Arizona is good, pretty good. I mean, Seattle's pretty good, and the Rams and the 49ers are really good. So so the Buccaneers are gonna probably win the division. They're probably gonna get a bye if they play their cards right, and they're gonna get somebody at home. I think the Buccaneers right now, the way they're setting up their season, they're gonna host or be an NFC Championship game if they keep going the way they're going. Because I think
they got to be the one seed. Yeah, they got to be the one seed to do that.
There's only one bye. I think Philly is on their way to losing more football games.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of 2 years ago when they started out 10-1.
Right.
They were winning games with smoke and mirrors, and the game yesterday against Denver. I mean, you can't have a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter at home and lose. You just can't. There's no, and I know they're whining about the officiating, and there were some really questionable calls, flags picked up in that game at the end of the game.
Right.
If I'm an Eagles fan, I'm pissed. But fact of the matter is, it shouldn't even got to that. You should have put this team away.
That's what I was going to say. There should never been a situation. So you have a very weird play calling situation. You've got players that are happy they're winning, but not happy with the productivity. You've got all kinds of stuff going on, and so it's with all that minutia, it's very hard to win football games consistently. And I think it's coming up on the Eagles right now. We're going to see what they're made of. But again, one thing I like about the Buccaneers, though, they're all in together. They seem like they really like each other. And the young guys are good. That there's a lot to be said about that. So I think that's really a positive for the Buccaneers, that they have a good team unity.
So Miami beat the Jets last Monday and had a 17-0 lead at Carolina yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they realized they were the Dolphins. That's just,
I'm sorry. That's coaching.
Yeah. Oh, no question.
I honestly believe that guy has checked out. He has 100% checked out. He, whatever it is, whatever has gotten him to be sort of down and out, melancholy, whatever his problems are, I mean, if I was a football player on his team, I would be like, I want this. I talk to the GM and saying, you got to do something about this. This guy I don't like anything about what he's doing. You know, they've got some weapons, but I mean, is Tua going to manage? I can see this being a Week 10 situation. Miami lost 5 in a row, and they fire the coach. Tua is going to tap out for the year and save his brains, and it's just going to be a catastrophe. I really think the Dolphins are in a downward spiral that they're going to be going down while the Jets are going past them. Not very much far past them, but past them. And the Dolphins are going to struggle for a while because they built this team to be around what McDaniel was doing with them. And I don't know if that's a winning formula.
And Rico Dowdell runs wild, almost 200 yards rushing.
I thought he had 209.
Oh, did he get over 200? Okay,
he had over 200. That was I thought fantasy number. I saw could have been all-purpose yards, but he definitely was crazy. He ran for almost 300 yards. That's nuts. And you say to yourself, well, you know, did Carolina figure out Miami? You know, and now that's it. Now there's the recipe. Go ahead and do it. Run the ball down their throats.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
and then you put the ball into his hands, and he's got only one guy to throw it to now, which is Waddle.
Yeah. Philly loses. Buffalo loses. We're barely into October. We have nobody with a 0 on the right side of the ledger. Let's give it up for the Patriots, okay? I'm from the Boston area. I've been listening to the hype. I think these fans we're delusional. But a win like that and the way they did it could be a springboard in their schedule for the next few weeks. Jets, Giants, Saints. I mean, they could suddenly be 7 wins as we get into November.
You're 100% right. And so first thing I was going to say is the 72 Dolphins, they couldn't even pop the champagne because they didn't even get out of the box yet. They never expected it. So they get to save their record for sure. But the Patriots, you know, when coaches were getting hired earlier this year, and everybody asked me, you know, they said, "What do you want the Jets to get?" I said, "I want Mike Vrabel." Without any question, I want Mike Vrabel. I think Tennessee, they just didn't know what they had. To be quite honest with you, I think they made some iffy decisions in the draft that didn't really help them get better.
I'm going to
Vrabel pushed them to wins.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off for a second. They're 4-18 since he left.
Yes,
4-18. Continue, John.
So I knew that guy was a coach who could take a team and make a bad team good.
Decent, yeah.
Right. And that's what he's done. And you watch him in his sincere enthusiasm for what's going on, his sort of vitriol, how he gets the team fired up. I think it's an undersell in the NFL that a coach can get a team fired up. I think that's a big part of certain things. And you watched him, and I've said this, I'm not a Josh Allen fan. Now I'll preface this by saying when the year that he came out in the draft, I said that's the most talented guy in the draft. Can you coach him to live up to his potential? And they have. But you know, there's guys like him don't slip through the cracks there's a reason Josh Allen didn't, you know, they didn't get picked to go to play at USC or some big school. He had to go the junior college route, and even then only Wyoming wanted him at that point. And what I'm going to get at is I think Josh Allen is a numbnuts. I think he does stupid stuff all the time, and he can't help himself. He loves to be the guy who runs for 20 yards, stands up and does the point, first down. He's that guy. Okay. You know, he loves the spotlight on him, and he will put himself out there in lieu of, that's why Diggs isn't there anymore, because he wouldn't throw the damn ball to him. He wanted to run, and Vrabel let him run, and Vrabel just let it all kind of. They know how to let Josh Allen run all over the damn field. Run anywhere you want. We're not beat us with your feet if you have to. And the game came down to the Patriots tackled better. They did all the fundamentals in that game better than the Bills. And it came right down to that, and they did enough to win that football game. And that's what Vrabel does. He looks at the game it's not all X's and O's. Sometimes it's what the other guy what is that other guy like? What's his weakness or his Achilles heel? And I think he beat Buffalo because he's seen enough of Josh Allen to know how to beat him. That's what the Chiefs do too.
How about this stat? And I'm stealing it from a buddy of ours, Sal Capaccio, on the Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast. That ended a streak of 27 consecutive games by the Bills that they did not lose the turnover battle.
Right.
That's pretty amazing.
Right.
But when you lose the turnover battle, and here's the other thing I gleaned out of that game. Drake May is grown up. He is afraid. I think the Patriots have their franchise quarterback now. I really do.
I totally agree. And the thing you got to realize is that a franchise quarterback, he may only win 7 or 8 games this year, but that's the building part of it. You have the patience is to say, we know you're going to do it. And when you blossom, we're off and running. We're off and running. And I think that's what's going to happen for sure. For sure.
All right. Here, let's talk about we teased it at the beginning. What in the world has happened to the Baltimore Ravens defense?
Ooh.
They are on pace to give up over 600 points this year.
Yeah.
600. And we're not talking a small quarter of the season now. And Houston, who couldn't get out of their own way in several games, C.J. Stroud looked completely bumfuzzled and confused, weighs 44 on them. Man, I think there's something smells on the inside of that. I talked about John Harbaugh, and I'm not the biggest fan in the world, and I don't think he gets enough criticism. You lose 44-10. I don't care who's playing quarterback. There are problems there, big problems.
No, I think the problems are deep in the building somewhere. I'm not. The problems are manifesting themselves in the field, but there's a bigger problem. I think John Harbaugh he's got to go. I think it's like you've been there for a while. It's a lot of energy. It's stale. There's probably
I think they plateaued. I think
yes.
Is that what you think?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think now they're just they're plateaued, and they're not going to make a run. And it's I'm sure the conversation is, can we win with Lamar? I mean, not regular season, but go and make to the championship. And
right.
If you can't, how do you dismantle that football team? You got to take it all apart. And so that's the thing. I think that's what they're really thinking about. How do we keep doing this? Because we're winning games just like Buffalo with Josh Allen, with a guy has to be superhuman to win games against good teams, and it doesn't work out that way. And now the defense got old. It didn't get draft picked properly. Who's been picked that
Other than Kyle Hamilton, I can't tell you who, really, honestly.
Well, all their good linebackers are all over the place. There's all ex-Raven guys everywhere right now. And I don't know what again, it's just a situation. Look, even so much to say how what's his name? Tucker, the kicker.
Yeah, Justin Tucker.
Okay. That's a weird situation. Did you not know that guy was that guy? I don't know. There's a lot of things that just these little tiny things that contribute to it could really be the problem with the Ravens. They look like somebody said that it's like you opened up a wall and you found black mold behind it. I think that's what they have. They opened up a wall and they found black mold.
3 teams I was very impressed with in addition to the Bucs. Indianapolis, and I know again they beat the Raiders. They haven't beat very many good teams, but the teams they're supposed to kill, they're killing. And that to me is a good sign. I know that's something that we talk about a lot in college football, but even in the pros, I mean, they're in a division that's definitely winnable. They've got 4 wins. They're 4-1. They should be 5-0. They should have beat the Rams. They've put that in the rearview mirror, and they could just keep playing great football. And listen, Danny Dimes, again, you put a team around him. He's got a Jonathan Taylor. He's got an offensive line. It's funny how that works, where these quote unquote reclamation projects at quarterback, right. You get some talent around him. There's a reason they were drafted as high as they were.
Absolutely right. You're 100% right. Even in that game, the Raiders and Indiana and the Colts, player to player, the matchups are even. I think Taylor's probably better than Genti at this point, a running back, but nonetheless, they have a good running back. They got right. Danny Dimes and Geno Smith. You can go Bowers and Ty Warren. They're player to play now. Bowers didn't play yesterday, but you've got receivers for the Raiders. Raiders. They were a chic pick to be a wild card team, and man, they're not showing it at this point at all. And I don't know. Again, Pete Carroll, there always was a little bit about his style of coaching that doesn't really go over well with a lot of people. But Raiders don't look good, but the Colts look like they look like they're really, really going to make a run at something this year, because they can beat anybody with the formula they've got going right now.
Yeah, I'll throw this at you. Daniel Jones behind Indianapolis and Geno Smith is in a complete dumpster fire, and I know they wanted him and they got him, and he's got the second most turnovers from a quarterback in the NFL. And
right.
I don't think it's an accident.
No, not a chance.
Washington, very impressive. I say on the road, I was at an establishment of fine wings watching the Bucs game, and they had the sound of the Commanders game on, and I could have swore the game was in Washington. Nonetheless, it's 10-0. It's about to be 17-0. Washington gets turnover, and they dominate the rest of that game. This was more of what we saw last year from the Commanders, and they're starting to get a little healthy. Jaden Daniels has been banged up. He's starting to look a little more healthy. They've got a running game. They play very good defense. The Commanders
the defense is very good.
Yes.
In that game yesterday, there's subtleties to it, but they are a good defense. They play sound defense. It's going to be interesting. I mentioned earlier the NFC East. I'm very interested to watch that East play out with those teams, because you got Dak, who's playing out of his mind right now in Dallas. Okay. And that's without Lamb. That's
right.
CeeDee Lamb. So playing out of his mind. A decent running game. The defense has played okay. They'll do whatever. But then you look at the Eagles; they seem to be schizophrenic with whatever's going on there. Whatever. And then obviously the Commanders. They might be the most stable group of the team in that group. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as talented as the other two teams, but they're the ones that are stable. So it's a very interesting deal. I do like the Commanders. I know people kept on saying that they were going to take a step back this year, but I don't see it. I think they're taking a step forward.
And speaking of teams that were thought to take a step back, especially after week one, the Detroit Lions. Yeah, their demise was highly overrated. They have won 4 in a row, and in fine fashion. What a heartwarming story about David Montgomery and his sister getting to see the game.
Absolutely, that was cool.
And of course, Dan Campbell throws a touchdown pass, runs one in. That's bad on me. I play guys in fantasy to score touchdowns. I had a friend who's pointed that out to me. He said, the sister's going to be there. First time she's ever going to see him play since the accident, what have you. But Dan Campbell, you talk about cool coaches. Dan Campbell's a cool coach. And it took a little while for those brand new coordinators to get things underway, but there they are, 4-1, kicking everybody's butt.
A guy like Dan Campbell, our good friend Trey Burton, Dan Campbell, he was a coach at Florida. Dan Campbell.
Oh, really?
Was. And ask Trey Burton about Dan Campbell. He'll tell you what a great guy he is.
Well, maybe we get to ask him on a future podcast.
Yeah, we're going to definitely do that. So there's no doubt about that. But he told me, he's like, yeah, he's a super guy. He's one of the better coaches he's ever seen.
All right, some of the games from next. Oh, I guess we should mention Minnesota. They're a 2-game series. They earned a split, rallied past Cleveland 21-17.
I think, and real quick, but put a little some on that. Dylan Gabriel looked really good.
Yeah, he did. He
He looked really good.
It wasn't his fault.
Nope. And I think I know it's one game, but I would put the rest of the season on his shoulders.
I don't think there's any. They're not going back to Flacco.
No,
they
but
certainly aren't going. Sanders is still number 3.
Yeah, Shador that's got to go away. That whole thing's got to. They need to jettison him, let him go play. And Shador Sanders would do a lot of good for himself if he went to Canada.
Yeah,
go play up there.
I didn't even think of that. That's a great idea. Great idea.
I mean, why not go up there and the name's going to be put up there. They're going to fawn over you like you want to be fawned over. Go prove yourself and see what happens.
All right. Some of the games next week, we already talked about the Bucks and Niners at Ray J, couple 4-1 teams. Jacksonville is going to be on a short week hosting Seattle. So Seattle's got to come across the country, and they're really pissed after yesterday. They really thought they should have won that game. Chargers are in Miami. LA's got to get back. Well, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago that everybody was, the Chargers are one of the best teams in the league, and now they are really struggling. 2 very bad losses, and even the game they won to get to 3-0, they weren't great in. So they need to get things back on track, and here come the Dolphins. Perfect opportunity.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you real quick about the Chargers. Obviously the Chargers now, and every time you mention Chargers, you got to mention Jim Harbaugh, right? Because obviously he's the guy. And you've seen Jim Harbaugh's philosophy on certain things. Could he be the guy that makes Herbert a little worse than maybe a guy who would give him a chance to open it up? And
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because all of a sudden they say that the Chargers, you always see them like Harbaugh's like preparing them to play in the playoffs. You know what I'm trying to say? Like they do certain things where it's like they kind of dumb it down a little bit, and they put a governor on them, and they're not gonna throw it as much or do whatever it may be. I just see Harbaugh being that guy that can kind of do that to a quarterback and kind of just reel him in a little bit, if that makes any sense.
That makes total sense. I mean, he reeled in McCarthy the whole time he was in Michigan. So
that's exactly right. And then there's been other places and other things, you know what I mean? Like, they got rid of Alex Smith and put put Kaepernick in there as a running quarterback, and then that didn't work, and he went to another. He's always been sort of that tinkerer. I think he's more of a. I think he's a college coach. He just doesn't like the rules that prohibit him from being who he wants to be in college. So that's why he's a pro coach now.
The specialty or standalone games Thursday night, Philly at the Giants. After that brutal game yesterday in New Orleans, where the Saints down 14-3, and all of a sudden the Spencer Rattler era began, and what did the Giants turn the ball over 5 consecutive possessions?
Yeah,
oh man,
just a fault. And it was funny because Brian Daboll last week was humping Jackson Dart on the field.
Oh yeah,
kissing him, you name it. They couldn't be any happier. Like here it is, we got it all covered. And next week you're like, there's a big crappy egg you just laid on that one.
And then you got a short week, and you got Philadelphia coming to town. I hope Allen and Kurt have some material in that game. I think that one's going to be a blowout. The London game is Denver at the Jets. Both teams are already over there. That's the only, or I guess the Jets are going tomorrow, but Denver's already there.
And it makes sense. Get used to the time change. You have to do that. And they get buys after the game anyway. Both teams.
Both teams, I believe, refused the buys.
Okay.
I know Denver did for sure. I'm not sure about the Jets.
So, but again, that game is going to be weird because I think the games overseas make bet the under and nobody to cover because they just squeeze, everything gets squeezed down a little bit. I think the best thing that can happen for the Jets is to go to London. To be quite honest with you,
get out of the country.
You figure something out. The sad part about it is I don't think that Aaron Glenn's a bad coach.
No, he's not. It's going to take a little while to get his.
Well, I'm going to go a little further with this. Just a real quick little sidebar here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are quote unquote superstar players on the Jets that aren't superstars.
Yeah.
I think that they are complementary players that could be really good complementary, but they're not the nuts and bolts of the team. I think Garrett Wilson is phenomenal, but he is going to get broken in two at some point in time.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. I think Breece Hall is really good, but when he gets hit, he doesn't hold on to the football very well. It seems like. You have just guys certain guys that just don't, even their edge guys, they're very dynamic, but they can get run over in a lot of situations. They're out of position. They run past plays. They're not disciplined. And I think that's where I'm eventually headed. Aaron Glenn can sit there and scream and yell or wrap his arms around him, but if you don't have somebody who's on board and play the game with the proper discipline, you're never going to win. No matter how hard you coach them, all you hear is how good they play, how good they practice, and they're like, "Oh, we had a great week of practice." Guess what? That's not the game.
Right.
And when the game starts, they're just not engaged. That's because too many drop balls and too many penalties, which is all and penalties. Everybody's taking their turn, jumping off sides or whatever. So there's a lot to be said. I think he's a good coach. There's going to be some real personnel things that you might see them be like, "We're going to trade Garrett Wilson to whoever for 3 draft picks," and something. I think that might be what has to happen. And I hate to say that because I think the guy's a really super player.
The stat of the weekend, and there's been a lot of them we've kind of talked about. 5 games,
no turnovers.
No turnovers. First team in the Super Bowl era to go 0-5 and not have a single turnover. That's pretty amazing.
And they
got talent on that side of the ball.
Well, so I'll give you another one. You know, Sauce Gardner, he's unbelievable, but so-and-so only caught 3 balls on him, but one was for a touchdown. He got beat over the top. He's not the greatest tackler in the world. You know what I mean? So it's like he's that guy. You've got some players, man, but you just don't have. It's not. There's no continuity to it. Mekhi Becton, you couldn't figure out how to put that guy at guard. He goes to the Eagles and wins a championship playing right guard.
Right.
Why didn't he? Why was that something you couldn't do with them? You know what I'm saying? Build it. You had pieces, big giant pieces, and they didn't work out. Just didn't work out. So we'll see.
Sunday night game next week is starting to look more and more sexy as we're recording. Kansas City is taking care of Jacksonville. So they go from a Monday night to a Sunday night, and in come the Lions. And I'm sure Kansas City remembers opening day. Was that 2 years ago? And Detroit won 21-20, went into Detroit, pretty much announced themselves. That is a sexy Sunday night game. And then we're back to the 2 Monday night games. Buffalo off the loss, going to Atlanta. The Falcons coming off the bye. That's the ESPN game at 7:15, and Chicago and Washington. Rematch of the Hail Mary pass from last year at 8:15 on ABC.
Usually with the doubleheader, one game turns out to be a really good one, right? Which one is it going to be? Because either one of those games can go sideways.
Yeah, they could. I think the Buffalo Atlanta game will be tough.
Yeah,
Atlanta at home's a different animal.
Yep, I agree. I think that's the one as well. So we'll see.
All right, let's move to the Major League playoffs, John. Yankees. Woo! They took care of the Red Sox. We had our Schitler. We now have Schitler's list. 12 Ks. Aaron Boone apparently learned the lesson. But right now, the Blue Jays, and they've done it all year long. And I know it's 2-0 as we record this.
Right.
They're going back to Yankee Stadium tomorrow night. But they've scored 23 runs in 2 games.
Yeah.
And they pretty much scored at will against the Yankees all year long. I don't know how in the world the Yankees come back and win this series.
I think the Blue Jays have been the best team in that division all year. There's no doubt about it. So it shouldn't be that much of a surprise that they're doing what they're doing. I mean, I get the run output yesterday was amazing, but nonetheless, I think they are the better team. Again, and I'll go down the list and I'm thinking, okay, so they take on the Detroit winner.
Mm-hmm.
That's that'll be entertaining. It'll be one of the more entertaining. I can't even say it.
ALCS.
ALCS championship. Yeah. But who's going to watch it? Who's going to be the deal?
You get no numbers from Toronto TV, so yeah, MLB's not exactly excited about it. No question about it. So Mariners and Tigers has the look of a 5-game series.
Yep.
They split, but they didn't split the way you thought they would. Tigers took game 1 in extra innings, and then Skubal goes to the hill for game 2, and he gives up a couple of bombs, and Seattle beats the Tigers, so they go to Detroit 1-1. That series is razor tight.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you're a baseball fan, these are entertaining series. Or the Yankees maybe not, but they're all going to be entertaining. Milwaukee and Chicago. That's obviously always there's a natural rivalry to that situation.
Yes.
So they're definitely entertaining. It's just going to be a matter of if who come, because again, if the Dodgers get past the Phillies, they're going to be the prohibitive favorite because they just got the everybody's going to think it's a Dodgers to lose. But there's some teams that they're going to play that might be better than them from a team perspective.
All right. You talked about the Dodgers and the Phillies, and Dodgers won again as we record, so they're up 2-0 going home.
It was 0-0 when we started, so I wasn't. Yeah.
Well, then the bullpens got involved, and both those teams really struggled in the bullpen, and ended up 4-3 Dodgers. So the Dodgers win both games in Philadelphia. That's
what I'm saying. That's
championship pedigree, folks.
Yeah, I think that's a done deal. It's just then and who they play. They're going to be the favorite because there's just a talented team,
and they're finally getting healthy at the right time.
Oh, no doubt about that.
Cubs Brewers, that game has just started. Matter of fact, Cubs had put a 3 spot on the Brewers in the first inning, after Milwaukee put a 6 spot on the Cubs in the first inning the other day. So in that series, you can literally, it's a 2-hour drive from Chicago to Milwaukee.
I'm saying there's a natural rivalry there.
Yeah.
You can't pass on that one.
All right. Again, the 941 Sports Zone brought to you by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. 941-251-4257 is the number. They're delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses throughout the Gulf Coast. They are locally owned, but they have national backing, which is really something that is very, very, very important. Got to have that back.
No.
All right, lock of the week time. And you don't mess with the gambling gods, but I did say Detroit was going to beat Cleveland in that series. So
right.
I'm 2-0. And what was your lock last week, John?
I'm 1-1. I said Miami would cover against Florida State.
Oh, they almost got backdoored in that game.
Well, I was watching, and I said to somebody, I said, I got Miami to cover. Oh, my brother. He's like, what? I said, it's a thing we're doing on the podcast. And then they kicked the field goal, or they instead of going for the touchdown.
Well, they got it to within one score. They did the math.
Yeah. So they said the
math wasn't mathing.
No, it didn't happen. So I'm 1-1. So you want me to go first with my lock?
Yeah, you kind of told me what it was, but go ahead.
Oregon covers, given 8.5 over Indiana. Okay. Now, Indiana's got to go to Oregon, so that's a haul the other direction over there. And I am not convinced, even though the Illinois game or whatever else happened, I am not convinced that Indiana is a top 15 team. I'm just not convinced of it. I think Oregon sets up to be Indiana's worst nightmare. Indiana plays the opposite right now. They're playing a little more dynamic style of offense against those plotting Big Ten teams. Mm-hmm. Oregon invented, what Indiana's doing, in my opinion.
Right.
You know what I mean? Dan Lanning also is the kind of guy that has no problem making a statement. He'll get joy out of, maybe putting Indiana back in their place if that's that he's so inclined. So pretty simple. Oregon 8.5, given 8.5 over Indiana is my lock of the week.
All right, I got to get the spread for my lock because I actually didn't look it up. I had some things to do before we started the.
Who you got? Give us your lock.
Well,
I can look it up later.
I think Cincinnati takes UCF behind the woodshed. I really
Okay.
do. I just think, and I'm sure the number's double digits. My guess is it's somewhere around 14. Especially, it might be no line right now because of UCF's quarterback. I want him to play because I don't want any excuses. But I think Cincinnati's a really, really good team, and they proved it last week by pretty much armbarring Iowa State throughout the entire game. So I'm going to take Cincinnati. I know you and I are both feverishly looking. This is not good podcast material,
No,
but I'm
I like
looking at
it.
my FanDuel account here, and the problem is it's not a top 25 matchup, so I got
Right.
to
So
go
you're not getting it.
deep into the
You got
bowels of everything. Oh, here it is. It's 10.5.
Okay.
That's actually less than I thought.
Well, actually, I have mine says 11.5.
Okay, well, you're in Florida.
BetMGM.
BetMGM. Okay. Well, I got 10.5, and I have to lay a little juice, which I don't like to do, but I'll take Cincinnati over UCF as my lock of the week. And it's time now for what's bugging me. And John, you can go ahead and start.
So what's bugging me is real simple. I can't imagine it doesn't bug everybody. It came to light again in the Arizona game with a running back running down the field. It could be receivers. It's not happening just once in a blue moon. It's happening 3 and 4 times a year in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then it's also happening in college as well. You know, the idea that you are crossing the goal line and your biggest concern is to somehow flip the ball or drop the ball or get an advanced extra step so you can do whatever dance you've perfected in your spare time or whatever it may be. And the thing now that when I watched it is that I'm looking at a dumbass play that's done, and I'm not watching anybody. You know, they follow because the camera is following him, okay, off the field or whatever else it is. And what do I see? A tap on the helmet, a tap on the head. Okay. I don't understand. And this is probably what bugged me more. I don't understand the reaction to it not being absolute insane, just being upset to no end. Because at that moment when that happened, you just may have given them a chance to beat us. That should have been said right then and there. It's not about you, it's about team. And You made it about you. And by the way, the guys who are doing it are not even anybody who have any reason to celebrate in a manner like that, Cadillacing it. They're third stringers and second stringers and backup cornerbacks or whatever it may be, right?
Yep.
I wanted to see the guy do that and a coach just say, look,
you're gone.
We don't need you. We don't need you. Gone. We'll take your helmet. You sit here. And and I said, now, and if we lose this football game by whatever points we lose, I want you to be able to look everybody in the face and tell them that you tell them that you're more important than them. Right. Okay. Make them be accountable. And if you need to, then bench his ass or get rid of him, one or the other. It has to happen. And in college, there's no way is nobody gone. You're off the field. Just like you got a targeting penalty or you blew your knee out. To me, it's the same thing. Get rid of it. Get him off the field. It's too much.
I would agree. I would agree with you. And I until somebody actually gets cut, and I think, in the case of the NFL, the union might get involved. I don't know if they can, but I'd love to see a coach. I'd love to see Mike Vrabel. Somebody do that on Mike Vrabel's team and see what happens.
Right. You don't have to scream and yell. My version, just say, look, you by doing that, you told everybody in the team you're more important than them. You're more important than the win. And so, and lay that on them and let them face the consequences of their actions. Yelling's not going to do anything. That's they don't care.
Right.
But let them face their teammates and have to deal with it.
All right. What's bugging me, and I kind of previewed it a little bit, is coaches from the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And the incessant whining of having to travel cross country.
Right.
USC went to Illinois. Lincoln Riley after the game, well, travel's difficult. And then, James Franklin, somehow, I don't even know why he would even hold a press conference, to be truthfully honest with you.
Right.
Because anything he says is going to sound moronic. And this was, well, the travel to UCLA. I think you mentioned it. There's like 7 students at the game. There's like, 30,000, 40,000 in a 100,000 seat stadium, maybe. Right. And that's because they give the take. Listen, cash the damn checks. Are you not gonna go to the bank then? Are you not gonna cash the checks?
Right.
Because I please, if Oregon kills Indiana or even beats them, I just hope that the coach just doesn't go, yeah, well, we had to travel all the way across the country. The Big Ten knew what they were getting into when they became the Big 18. And that's what it is.
They had to do it. They were keeping up with the SEC. And
right.
They made it harder for everybody to.
Yeah. And there's actually 2 more. The SEC only has 16 teams. So the Big Ten can boast that they have 18 teams.
Good for them.
But listen, and listen, Duke played at California last week, and they got out to a lead, and then California just kind of wore them down. And that's, again, the Duke coach was like, well, we just ran out of gas. Tough, Right. I mean, that's what you wanted. That's what you want. You want the big contract. You want the CBS to do your games. You want NBC to carry some of your games.
Right.
That's the nature of the beast today. You don't hear any SEC teams whining. Of course, there aren't very many big road trips, but still. The point is that maybe it's because the SEC was a little smarter, and they said, "Well, no, 16's enough. We don't need to. We don't need to add like I don't know Arizona or somebody. That just doesn't make any sense."
And then even now the SEC has set the schedule up now. I mean, it's very uniform. It makes a lot of sense.
It's a nice round robin. I like that too.
Absolutely. No, there's no doubt.
I am tired of hearing the Big Ten coaches whine about travel.
Go ahead. Yeah. I'm going to pile on James Franklin too, because the thing is that you came off a loss last week and you sort of made excuses about the loss, whatever they may have been. You sort of had this sort of, well, whatever kind of deal. And then now you go to UCLA. Don't you think that when you're watching your coach and he's sort of making excuses as to how they lost that game, maybe you feel as though you don't have to worry about this game as much, or you're just going to dial it in? Don't you think that same blasé attitude about the loss the week before didn't contribute to the loss? That's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, They're losing because nobody was upset last week, like upset, like kicking a door in upset, not crying and poor me upset. Sure, they had that, but I think that's part of the problem with that, with its style of play. You make excuses about things, and everything is somebody else's fault or something else that happened, or I don't know what happened, and whatever, and then you lose again the next week. What do you know? You make a habit of it after a while when you can just make excuses for stuff and get away with it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. What? By the way, didn't Oregon go to Penn State and win?
Yeah.
In overtime?
Yeah, no problem, right?
They went across the country.
Absolutely. In a whiteout.
Did okay.
100 and some thousand people, whiteout.
Yeah.
The hard conditions, and did just fine.
Yeah. Tired of it. Absolutely tired of it. All right, John, that'll do it for episode number 7 of the 941 Sports Zone.
Well, we'll both be doing the same thing Friday night, just different places.
Yes, we will. I'll be at Levitt Bay as they host the Stero at Veterans Stadium in Inglewood, and you will be at quite the game. You will be at Powell Davis Stadium, and Riverview comes to town with their gaudy 6-0-1 record. Let's see what they bring.
And like I said, we talk about it all the time, and Ryan and I talked about it as well. That even with IMG, when they're playing all over the country, that's a pretty cool deal for him. Just wherever you go, high school football Friday nights, as it gets deeper into the season, it's the place you want to be.
Absolutely.
So in both cases, go to the games, guys, if you can. They're just great. The spirit is great. It's imperfect. Nothing's going to be. Nobody's going to have a perfect game. They're going to drop passes. They're going to miss blocks. Referees are going to call penalties. You're going to think, what are they doing? But all in all, it's always the spirit of the game the community that surrounds the team and the games is fantastic. We're looking forward to a great night.
Totally agree with you, man. All right. Have a great call, and we'll catch up next Monday night. Stay tuned. We'll put on social media where we might be doing the show next Monday night.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do that for sure.
We'll definitely work on that. All right. For John Massoni, I'm Spitz. You've been watching the 941 Sports Zone. Tell your friends about it. Share it with everybody. We're live every Monday night at 8 o'clock, YouTube, Facebook. Drop in, and then, of course, watch the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Till next week. So long, everybody.
See you guys and girls.